Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co, and today I'm reviewing Intarsia from Pegasus Spill. Intarsia is an action and resource management game in which players are trying to build out their own piece of art, I guess. They're building out something over here, and they're trying to be taking actions which will cost resources, but sometimes give them back resources, and doing so more efficiently than the other players before the end of the game. For the sake of teaching this, I'm just going to go ahead and start taking a bunch of actions. Rather than taking turns as you normally would in the game, I'm just going to take actions myself so you can get a sense of what it plays out. But the general idea is you have your hand of cards over here, this is going to be the back of the cards, and we have our hand, our resources that we're going to be spending on different tokens to put them onto our board. So for example, a starting action might be, I take this yellow one over here, I spend it and I put it back into the pool of resources, and I take a yellow frame and I put it out onto the board. A main rule of the game is you always have to touch pieces to other pieces. So for example, I couldn't put this over here because that wouldn't be touching this over here. So I have to be touching another piece that's already on the board, and I have to match color. That costs me one yellow resource and it gives me nothing back. But for my next action, and again, this is the part where somebody else would take a turn, but for my next action, I'm just going to skip the other player's turns to teach us. I'm going to go ahead and spend 4 resources over here to build a new frame. You see, you can build a bunch of things in this game, but the main things you're going to be working on, you're going to be working on external frames to grow your board, and then internally building out these by going further inner, which you'll see how that plays out shortly. But for right now, what you need to know is I'm going to spend 4 resources, and I'm going to take one of these, and I'm going to add it to the board. The reason I'm going to do that is because these will score you points every single round as you place them, plus they will be essential as you continue to play. So there we go, we spend our 4 resources, but now you're going to see something new, because you see when you build the basic yellow frame over here, you don't get anything back. It costs 1, it gives you 0. But a general rule of Intarsia as you play is however much you spend, you're going to get 1 less back. So in this case, I spent 4 resources, and specifically when I go ahead and build this 4 resource one over here, I can move this token 1 or 2 along this track and get those cards back. So for example, I'm going to go 1, 2, and take 3 purple cards into my hand. So in this case, you're controlled by the actual board over here. You move 1 or 2 spaces and take the reward shown. So for example, this would be 2 yellows and a wild. This would be 2 of one color and 1 of a different color. In my case, I took 3 purple, adding them to my hand of cards over here. From there, I'm going to take my next action. Again, players will be taking turns between me. Right now, I'm going to start working my way inwards on a flower. You know what? I have a bunch of purple over here. Maybe I'll start working on a purple flower simultaneously. So I'm going to spend this 1 purple over here. I'm going to take this and put it down over here. Again, back to me. I take another action, keeping in mind I get nothing back because that cost me 1, and you always get 1 less than that back. So 1 minus 0, or 1 minus 1, is 0. I'm going to go ahead and take my next action. I'm going to spend 2 purples over here and build inwards. You see, in general, when you're building these wooden frames here, you spend 4 of any color that you want. But when you're building a frame, you have to spend the color, and when you're building deeper down, you still have to match the color. So in this case, I'm going to take this because I spent 2 purples, and I'm going 1 level further down. There we go. That's 2 purple over here, and I'm starting to build out my frame over here. Now I'm going to get 1 color back, or 1 card back, but it has to be a different resource than what you spent. In my case, I'm going to go ahead and take back, I probably should do green too. I'll take back yellow. I'll take back a yellow one over here, and we'll see how this plays out. So I'm going to take my yellow right now. I'm going to spend those 2 yellow, and I'm going to, how do I want to do this? I'm going to spend those 2 yellow. I'm going to go deeper down over here on this frame over here. But again, I get 1 back because that's basically the rule of the game. And in this case, I'm kind of tempted to take back, you know what? I think I'm going to take back a green right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take back a green, and I'm going to add that to the 4 green in my hand right now, and I'm going to build out another frame. So I'm going to build out another one of these over here, and this time round, I'm going to go over here. We're going to try to work on building up my purples further, and then right now we're going to go ahead and 1, 2. I'm going to move this 1 and 2. Do I want to go there? Yeah, I'm going to go 1 and 2, and I'm going to get back 2 purples plus a yellow, let's say. So I'm going to get back 2 purple over there, to 1 and 2, and a yellow, and then I'm going to go ahead and continue what my next action is, which in this case, I'm going to spend 3 purple, which is 2 purple plus a wild, and I'm going to spend those and build a layer down. So now I'm going to go further down over here and be able to show you something new. You see, now that I've gone further down for the first time, now that I have this over here, I can show you that, let's see, what am I doing over here? I placed that. So first things first is I'm going to get back 2 cards. Because I spent 3 purples, I can get back 2 cards, but it has to be different colors. I'm going to take back 2 yellows. But then from there, now that I have these 2 yellows, I'm going to get a reward. You see, this is where you're going to look at this board over here, and you can see that each color has a row. So we have purple down the bottom row, then the green, then orange, then yellow, but there's also different types of tools, which will explain how those work shortly. The most important thing to note, though, is I just built a level 3 flower, and you can see over here, the first person to build a level 3 flower will take this over here, and I'm going to go ahead and take 2 points for myself on this track and put this in front of me. I've now earned this over here. Now, there's a way you're going to get more points from this, but let me just first show you how the rest of the round plays out, and then I'll tell you all the things that you didn't get to see. So, I have 3 yellows in my hand right now. I'm going to go ahead and spend 3 yellows to do the exact same thing, placing an internal one over here, but this time round, I'm going to take back 2 purples. Oh, actually, you have to take back, and I think I did this wrong before. You're supposed to specifically take back, when you spend 3, you're supposed to take back 2 of different colors, okay? So you don't take back 2 of the same color, you take back 2 different colors, not the one that you spent. So in this case, I'll go ahead, I spent 3 yellow, and I'll take back a purple, and let's go ahead and take orange over here. I got our first orange in play. Now, in the meantime, over here, because I did this, I will once again look at the board, and I got this one over here, which means I get another 2 points for doing that, and I go further up 2 points. Then I'm going to spend this purple over here. I'm going to place down a new purple frame over here, and I'm going to check the board, and I see that I have 2 over here. I'm able to go ahead and cash in this one, where I again have 2 level 1 purples, and I move up another point over there. And then right now, I could go ahead and spend this, or I could pass and save this for the next round. In my case, I'm going to pass and hold on to it. I don't yet know what I want to do, so I'm going to just hold on to that for a bit. That's basically how a round's going to play out, with the obvious exception that the other players are playing at the same time. The round ends when all players have passed, and when you do that, you're going to move this up one to the next round, but for the current round you're in, everyone's going to score 1 point for every one of these they have. That's going to be another 3 points for me. In round 2, you're going to get 2 points for everyone, and in round 3, you're going to get 3 points for everyone, so if you know you're building them out, it's often worth building them out early on, especially because getting back resources is helpful, so building the big things first might seem counterintuitive, but you kind of want to build the big things first and then work your way down to the small things, because you just get more of a return on your dollars, so to speak. That's basically what's going on over here. The things you haven't seen or don't know yet is, first of all, whenever you get the same tool from a column, so for example, let's pretend that right now I have this one over here. Let's pretend at some point in the game, I go ahead and I get this over here. Then I'll get the 3 points, but I'll get an additional 1 point because I have another hammer tool. For each tool you already have, you get an additional point, which means you can get up to 3 bonus points if you already have all the tools in that column. So you do kind of want to eye this puzzle board over here, look at your own board, and build that in a way that you can get those extra points, because this can be a close game, and locking in those extra points can be the way that you win. Additionally to that, the other thing you want to note is when you pass, what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and return your pre-existing card and take back one of the cards that's currently available. So for example, maybe I take this one, and that's going to define my new hand, that I go ahead and add those new cards to my hand and to any existing cards that I already have, and that's going to populate what I get done for the next turn. That's basically how you play Intarsia. Across 3 rounds of play, you're effectively taking actions to spend your resources in order to build the various wood components that will go onto the board. Whenever you pay for something, you're paying 1 for an outer frame, 2 for the next level, 3 for the next level, and 4 to get this end cap over here in there. That's going to cost you 4, and that's going to be the same cost that you're going to be spending on these little X's over here that will expand your board. Whenever you spend something, you're going to be getting back 1 less card. In general, when you're doing the 1, 2, or 3 cards, you're going to get back 0, 1 resource that you didn't spend, or 2 different resources that you didn't spend. And when you spend the 4 cost, which is this one over here and this, you're going to move on this board 1 or 2, taking the bonuses shown. Do that for 3 rounds and see who has the most points at the end of it, and that is how you play Intarsia. Which brings us to review, starting off with the ease of play. I would say the rulebook was fairly straightforward, fairly clear. I don't think I had any real questions. It's a quick game to learn, a handful of pages, a quick game to teach, and it plays in around 45 minutes or so, although of course that will vary depending on your player group, player count, all of that. As far as what I like, don't like, and can see others not liking, starting off with what I like, which is to begin with, this game is absolutely beautiful. The components over here are going to be wooden for all these things, which means you're building out this board that's going to develop as you go. It's a nice looking game with nice looking components, and that overall is just going to be a nice visual aesthetic to the game, along with that carpentry feel, and it really feels like you're building something out as you go. There's also a good escalation to the building. The amount you get done in round 1, this is my round 1 over here, you're going to get more and more done as you play, because you're going to be getting more trade-off as you try to trade in cards for more cards. It might feel a little tight as you go, but by the time you get to the end of 3 rounds, I do think it feels nicely appropriate for the game, and gets you enough then that you feel you're able to build your, not really an engine so to speak, but build out enough stuff and get those extra cards and focus on the tools. You're going to have a lot of things coming to you, even though at the end of round 1, it will seem like you aren't able to get enough done. But you will get enough done. You will be able to continue to build and develop and get more and more back. There's a mindfulness around what opponents are going for as you play, because you are thinking through what you're trying to build. You're trying to think through how you're going to spend your cards, what you're going to get back, how you're going to turn those into other cards, but you're also paying attention to what other players are building, because you're going for these extra points and you cannot ignore these extra points. They're going to be a big chunk of your score in terms of just those extra differences you get because you're building things anyways. Oh, and the last thing I didn't cover over here, it's very important, is in addition to all the points you're getting for here and these at the end of every round, at the end of the game, you're going to get 1, 3, 7, or 12 for levels of the flowers that you've built. You're going to be looking, so every full one over here is going to get you a full 12 points. You really want to pay attention to those. There's a lot of points coming at you there. But you are trying to be mindful of these points and of these tools and trying to cash in those extras. So you are thinking from the get-go, okay, well, how can I focus on the hammers most efficiently? How can I focus on the saws most efficiently? What will give me the ability to get all of these? And keep in mind that some of these are going to have, well, depending on the player count you're playing with, you're going to have a few of these laid out over here. So different player counts will have more tiles placed into this grid. So for example, you can see the first person who goes here will get 2 points plus their bonuses, and the next person will get 1 point plus the bonuses for exactly the same thing. And so you are very much paying attention to the other players and what they're going for. If you see players are sparse on yellow, it may be helpful to start leaning into yellow, because you'll be able to get extra things from the grid that no one else is competing for, getting those extra points from the tiles that just aren't being taken by the other players. So there's a degree of managing your own hand, there's a degree of managing your own tableau, there's a degree of paying attention to what the other players are going for, and it does all of that in a nice round 45 minutes, a nice reasonable amount of time for the game itself. As far as what I don't like about the game, there's going to be two things. First of all, the setup is definitely fiddly. This is annoying to set up because you have to stack them in the right order, which means generally what I do for this game is I sort them off to the side and then put them onto the grid, because placing them in the wrong order here gets very annoying when you take things out and resort them. So this is not the end of the world, but definitely more tedious than I'd like considering the length of the game. But far more importantly than that small nitpick, because that is a small nitpick complaint, far more importantly, I think that, and this is the only real complaint I have against Intarsia, is this, but it is a big complaint for me, which is I don't see any real replayability on this game. Your first game you dive into will be, well, hopefully will be an enjoyable experience. It certainly was for me, but this isn't a game where I'm like, ooh, let me try it again to continue to play out different strategies. Your second game will feel exactly the same as the first. Your third game will feel exactly the same as the second. This is not a game that develops for me as I play. The closest thing to that development or to that mindfulness is paying attention to what other players are doing to try to be mindful around going for things they're not going for. So I'm in less of a fight with the other players than the other players are with the other players. And so that's the only real thing I have in mind as I play through this. For me, Intarsia is a game that was fun to learn and to play and figure out how the patterns work, but it has nothing that keeps me coming back for it. The amount of player interaction is really focused on just trying to be mindful of what you're going for and what they're going for, but you're not actually really strongly competing, and the decision space I think is not interesting enough, and there's not like a shared pool of, like your ability to get cards is so easily defined that it's not like you're limited by what the game is throwing at you. You can kind of create your own narrative as you go. Sure, you start with this hand of cards where you have to like, oh my gosh, you're limited to those colors, but you're not, because everything you do in the game lets you get back cards, so you can always dump the cards you don't need for these and just get the colors you want. I never really felt constrained by the game. I just felt like I had to optimize myself, and then once I did so, the game didn't give me anything new. So to me, Intarsia, and we'll cover this more in final thoughts, but the biggest issue with Intarsia for me is just the incredible lack of replayability for the game. As far as what I can see others not liking, first of all, the colors, I think I only have one thing here. The colors are very samey over here. This is a very specific palette that does enhance the visual aesthetic of the game, but it does so possibly at the cost of comprehension. Even just looking at these over here, I don't know, I feel like the colors are a drop samey because they're leaning into the palette. It's not the end of the world, but it could have been a little clearer. As far as final thoughts on Intarsia, I enjoyed my first play of Intarsia. But after that, it kind of just went downhill. To me, Intarsia is a game that is a fun game to try. If you have the opportunity to try this game, by all means do so. If you had a convention, if your friend has a copy, this is a fun game that I enjoyed playing for the first time. But then after that, it didn't give me anything new. It didn't give me a strategic sense of depth. It didn't give me a lot of agency over, well, it gave me too much agency. That's the problem. There's not enough player interaction the way players will get involved with you. You have too much ability to get the resources you need at any given point. So really, it's just a small little optimization puzzle around how to most efficiently place out your own things while being slightly mindful of other players, and that was an experience that was enjoyable the first time and got progressively less so as I played it. To me, Intarsia is a definite try before you buy kind of game. For me, it's going to come in at a 3 out of 5. I enjoyed it, I had fun with it, but there's not a lot that's keeping me coming back for more plays. As far as other game recommendations, first of all, this is going to be compared heavily to Azul. There is something about the vibes of this game that do keep it in a similar space to Azul as far as how you're building out, first of all, the visualness, the visual aspect of it, but also just how you're building things out. I do think that Azul gives you a lot less control over the resources you're getting, which makes it a more interesting puzzle to balance around. And then secondly, if you want to check out a game that has, I can't tell you why this is similar, but it just feels a bit similar, even maybe just the look, but from Pegasus Spiel as well, is going to be Framework. Check out that game from Uwe Rosenberg. You're building out frames in a whole different puzzle that I personally find very, very satisfying. In any case, and until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I hope you have a good one.